And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Less people are having children around the world. According to a new study, 97% of 204 countries will be below the replacement rate of fertility in the U.S. The fertility rate has dropped 20% in the past 2 decades. Joining us to talk about this declining birth rate is OBGYN Dr. Marcel Thompson. Glad to have you here on The Factor Uncensored. I first heard about this in a report last week, and now I did the research, and it's even in places like India and where you expect a high birth rate, where we have heard in the past have been high birth rates. Everywhere around this country, around this world, people are seeing a significant drop in birth rates. And of course, you have some reasons that you'll tell us about today.
Correct. Yeah, there's a multitude of different reasons. Of course, the advancement of some of the contraception, long-acting contraception, also the advancement of women just delaying childbirth, the cost, the economic cost so far as happening, and like I said, the education for women. So a multitude of factors has been associated with the overall decline of fertility rates across the world.
Okay, and of course, when we think about the decline that we're seeing, what does that do to the world in the future? I heard in the report, or saw in the report last week, that we will meet our peak in population in 75 years. Then it's downhill from there.
Correct. Yeah, compared to the 1950s, where the average woman was having approximately about 5 children per woman, compared now it's only 2. Two children per woman. It doesn't meet the aspect of our rates that are declining. So a lot of different questions come involved so far as with policy, with how we attack or we address immigration issues. So a lot of how some countries are even encouraging economically the women to have children that are less than under 25, really trying to look at how do we increase or maintain the population homogeneous within certain countries. So that leads to a lot of other particular aspects around immigration, not just in our country, but worldwide.
And I recently saw 2 parents talk about child care, and they were based in Boston. And they said for each child, they paid $30,000 a year for child care. Keep in mind, this is the East Coast, very expensive there. But $30,000 per child, that's like a college education. Correct. That could be a deterrent as well for parents out there.
A lot of it is. So far, as we're becoming more urban, the cost of living, the cost of having just a 2-bedroom apartment in a city becomes more of a barrier also. But the one thing that has been that is consistent is the rise of social media and the rise of this phone, isolation of just having to couple. So when we call coupling or matching, finding a partner that you can have children with, that's been on decline as kids.
Well, I thought that was what the apps were for.
Right.
Apparently the apps aren't working anymore.
Right. And the apps, it just comes down basic to, boy meets girl. How does that interaction come about? Nowadays, with the apps, there's social meetups, there's social hookups, but there's no, so far as forming a relationship, trying to develop a relationship, having a child, having children. So we're having to re-socialize, the kids.
All right. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation after the break here on The Factor Uncensored. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're here continuing our discussion on the global decline in birth rates. And part of the reason is, by design, some people are electing to not have kids. Ms. Guillory is here to talk about it here on The Factor Uncensored. She told us in the past she loves being child-free, carefree, living her free life.
My best
Along with Dr. Marcel Thompson, who is back, OBGYN. So you made a conscious decision
Yes.
not to have children. So why?
Well, you know, my mom and dad, who were married until my dad passed away, they made it a point to tell my brother and I, go out there and do what it is you want to do. I think while I was out there doing the things I aspired to do, I kind of liked it, you know what I mean? And for me, I had time to stop and think and freeze things and, you know, just create embryos and all this stuff. I had the time for that. My doctor was very serious and intentional about that conversation. But I kind of like this, and I am not one of those people who had that ticking clock in the background. Oh, my clock is ticking. Child, I think mine is broke because it's not ticking, and I'm not bothered by it. I enjoy my life.
We know you have a Timex. Takes a licking and keep on ticking.
You know, well, I'm going to leave all those jokes out of this.
But and this is your choice, and you're happy and fine with it. You don't feel public pressure to do that.
Not at all, and I have to thank my mom, too, because she never pressured me about that. Neither did my dad while he was alive. I publicly, I don't know, nobody bothers me about it. As a matter of fact, every time I'm with I teach adults for a living, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know you were, I'm going to say it, 53. And they're like, how do you look like that? And I said, ma'am, let me say this, but don't take offense. Not married, no kids. They all go, oh, and that's the end of that.
And doctor, let's bring you into this conversation. Deciding and having made the decision, I don't want to have kids, and being happy with that, you shouldn't feel the pressure of this birth rate that it's going on a decline here around the world.
Right. You know.
Or should you?
No, I mean, the ideas of pregnancy and women choosing to just live their life. And like you said before, it used to, some women be stigmatized almost, say, oh, you don't have any kids, or you don't have, but nowadays, women are choosing to take control of their lives. Now, is there if every woman did that, do we see we have that peak and starts to come down? Yeah, but it's still, you know, the woman's aspect to be able to choose the way she chooses to have her life. Yeah. And so it goes back to I believe the women's rights to be able to and be comfortable with those decisions.
And one of the key factors we saw up there, Mish, was education. And a lot of women saying, look, I have other things I want to do. Yes. I want to pursue and use this degree, this diploma that I have received in education, and I want to live my life, and I don't necessarily want to be saddled with children.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't look at it as a saddling. Choices were made. I want to have kids. You know, I'm saying other people will say, I want to have kids, I want to have a family. And I want to travel, and I want to have fun, and I want to sleep late, and I don't want to have to get up at 5 o'clock to put the Fruit Loops in the bowl. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are things I just wanted to live my life my way, and I enjoyed it. So it just wasn't a problem for me. It wasn't an issue to not have them.
And when you hear some of the numbers, like this couple in Boston where they had to pay $30,000 per child, that would really put a dent into a lifestyle. And of course, once again, we remind people we're talking about East Coast prices.
Yes, yeah.
We can probably get it half that or a third of that here in Texas, but that's still a lot of money that people have to commit to with children.
And children are expensive in and of themselves, even if you're not dropping 30 grand to have them. So real talk, I mean, I get to keep my money and keep my sanity and keep my sleep pattern where I want to. I enjoy other people's children. I have kept all my friends' kids, taken them to school, done all the things with the kids. That's enough. That's it. I'm good.
I think you like the part where you could just turn them over.
Send them on back, yeah. I'm like a grandparent already. Send them back. So.
What does the future hold, though, if we stay on this decline, Dr. Martel?
Well, the future, unfortunately, it holds, as the numbers say, we can't.
But it's not like it's going to be the end of the world anytime soon. And if it is, that's on them. Down the road, several generations.
Well, what you have is you have a increasing older population that's not being taken care of by a newer generation.
Okay. All right. We want to thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. We can go on and on. Thank you all for joining us. Check us out on social media and on Fox. So wave good night, Mish.
No.
Let me get video of you with my glasses.
I'm waving to him. Kids at home watching. Hey, Mom. There it is.